Welcome to this guide on how to drive the Mustang around Watkins Glen in the Cup configuration. This particular week it is really hot and therefore the lap times are a little higher than what you'd normally see. Obviously the way to approach each corner is still the same, it's just that the lap times here might be a little higher than what you'd see if, let's say, the temperature was around 72 degrees Fahrenheit. This week it's actually around 89, and therefore you just don't have as much grip. The Mustang in particular is very sensitive to the temperature to determine its grip levels. So this is a reasonably short track. A good time around here is around low 24s or high 23s. So let's get going. Obviously you want to set up the your lap with a good exit in the last turn. It's just about getting us as high a corner exit speed as possible. So I'm just going to run the tape here. And that wasn't necessarily the most perfect exit, but it was good enough to give me a decent exit speed. So here we approach turn 1, by far the most important corner on the whole track, because it determines your speed through the whole long straight, which is uphill and is a great drafting and overtaking opportunity if you have a driver close behind you. It also gives you the opportunity to actually hang with faster drivers, because it is extremely hard to pull away on this track unless the driver behind you makes a mistake, which in turn 1 it is really easy to do. It's one of these corners where it feels like you want to hit the throttle sooner than you should, and it feels like, or it's really easy to overdrive, but actually the proper line through this turn is just to go over the curb on the left hand side as you exit the turn. If you go too wide, you're actually going to lose momentum and you're going to lose speed. I typically brake just as the 300 marker passes my left hand window. So just as I pass the 300 marker, I start to brake. And if you look at my brake pedal, I don't depress it all the way. I don't brake 100%. I brake reasonably softly here, and I try to trail brake all the way to the apex, at which point I hit the throttle. A good turn here means that you shouldn't really go under 69, 68 miles an hour. That should be your lowest speed throughout this corner. So let's see how I'm doing. So really smooth enter there. You just want to touch the apex as you're turning the corner, and then this is about as far over the left hand side curb that you want to go. There'll be plenty of people, and probably you yourself will go over further to the left during the race, because as I said, it's really easy to overdrive this particular turn. But this is pretty much ideal in terms of getting the best exit speed out of this corner. You don't want to touch the grass here on the left hand side as kind of the tarmac disappears, because that will give you a 1x. The uphill Esses here are really all about just trying to maintain and gain as much speed as possible. Try not to scrub the tires or turn the tires too much. Try to have as straight a line as possible as you can through the Esses. And then as I'm hitting about 124, 125 miles an hour, I change into 5th. So coming up to the bus stop, another double chicane where it's really important to try to keep as straight a line as possible through both turns. There's a gray line that is kind of midway through the bus stop, and that's a great line to follow, and I'll show you, and I'll actually pause. I'll go back after you see this turn. I brake around the 300 point here, and I brake in, or I downshift into 3rd gear. Some of the really fast drivers are able to take this in 4th. For me, while it is possible, I am much more consistent when I do it in 3rd, and I engine brake to reduce my speed. And as soon as I hit the or come through kind of the first left-hander, I hit the throttle again and stay full throttle through the 2nd chicane. So let's go back and take a look at that gray marker that I mentioned. Let's step forward here. You want to try to cut this corner as much as you can, and you see this gray pattern here, or gray almost drive line through the corner. That's what you want to follow. That's the ideal line. If you cut this too much, obviously you get a 1x. This is probably about as much as you can get away with without getting an incident count. So just focus on following this line. And this is another point of the track where it's really easy to overdrive. In fact, this is true probably for all of Watkins Glen. So really make sure that you don't go too fast here, because if you do, you're going to overrun the second chicane. So you want to keep a tight line and make this as straight as possible. Coming to the carousel, I upshift into 4th, and then I immediately let go of the throttle, and I just scrub speed all the way through the corner. And then there's a little bump or a little downhill or a little change in the elevation of this turn, kind of midway through, where the camber changes and you actually get a little more camber, and that's a great point to hit the throttle, and then you just floor it as much as you can. It will kind of feel like the car will slingshot out of the corner if you do this properly. I'll see if I can show it on the video here. But as I said, I'm just about to shift into 4th, and then I immediately let go of the throttle and then just scrub the speed to get me tight through this corner. And right there was the little change in elevation, which is the point where you want to hit the throttle. And as you can see, I'm full throttle through the corner, and it gives me a perfect exit through. So I'll just go back and I want to show that again. There. So it's kind of hard to tell. Once you drive through this corner enough, you'll get a feel for it. And then obviously carry that speed through to the last 2 turns here. Again, I brake at around the 300 marker, which seems to be a common theme around this track. I'm now in 4th gear. I'm going to downshift into 3rd. Try to hit the apex to the left, and then you don't necessarily have to use all the curb on the right hand side as you exit this turn. In fact, it might even be faster not to use as much as I'm using here. But either way works pretty well. Very easy to oversteer into that turn. And then obviously the last turn, just focus on hitting the apex and getting a good run out onto the start-finish straight. You can use or use as much as possible of the track here as well. You're going to run up right against the wall, but there's enough room for you to do that as long as you're back on the track and don't get a 1x of the little green patch that's coming out. So I'm running all the way wide, and just make sure you're back on the track or else you get a 1x there. So that's a lap around Watkins Glen. Hopefully this will help someone. Thank you very much for watching.